Dad told me it was just a get-together when I asked about my brother's engagement party, the one I wasn't invited to. So instead of sitting around stewing, I packed up and took off on a solo trip. Hours later, my whole family started calling, crying, and somehow blaming me for chaos I hadn't even seen. Hey Reddit. My family's always played favorites. But the breaking point? My own brother threw a massive engagement party and didn't even bother to invite me. So I said, screw it, packed my bags and went on vacation. But of course, with my family, drama never really ends there. Let me back up and explain how it all started. I'm Lucas, 32. I live in a small apartment above a diner that permanently smells like fries. My younger brother Daniel is 28, the golden child. Ex-Army, back home for about a year now. He's the guy my parents brag about to literally anyone who'll listen. Their hero, so selfless, always thinking of others. Meanwhile, I'm the one they call when their Wi-Fi's down or the gutters are clogged. Nobody's ever bragging about me on Facebook. And look, I've never been jealous of Daniel. He's my brother. I care about him. But the way my parents treat him? Whole different league. Example. Last Thanksgiving, I drove 3 hours in the pouring rain just to make it on time. Daniel showed up 2 hours late, no apology, tracking mud through the house because he had to grab drinks with an old buddy. Mom hugged him like he'd just returned from war again. Me. She shoved a towel into my hands and said, "You can clean that, right, Lucas?" That's the dynamic. Always has been. Anyway, last month I was in my little workroom, corner of my apartment where I rebuild old motorcycles. I was also finishing a custom, save-the-date design for Daniel and his fiancée Hannah. He'd asked me because, in his words, "You're the artsy one, and Hannah likes the handmade vibe." I didn't mind. I actually stayed up late more than once because Hannah kept changing her mind about colors. She finally loved the version I made with a mountain outline and their initials. So, I'm sitting there tweaking the last details when my phone buzzes on the workbench. Text from Daniel. "Party this weekend. Guest list super tight. Hope you understand." I read it twice. At first, I thought he meant some other party, maybe something Hannah's friends were doing small scale. Then I opened Instagram while my file exported, and there it was. Some girl Hannah knows had posted, "Can't wait for the big weekend," with a picture of a lake, a massive tent, and the hashtag Daniel and Hannah. I call my dad. "Hey, what's this party this weekend?" Daniel texted me something weird. Dad goes, "Oh, it's nothing big. Just a get-together at Hannah's parents' lake house before the wedding. Don't make it a thing." Am I invited? Long pause. Well, it's mostly her family and some close friends. Daniel said the guest list is tight. Dad, I literally designed their invitations for free. "Look, Lucas," he says with that tone like I'm already being difficult. "It's not personal. Just keeping it small." I hung up before I said something dumb. 5 minutes later, my cousin Isla sends me the actual invite, because she just assumed I was coming. Big blue banner. Join us for a weekend celebration. 137 people going. So much for small. I skim the list. One name stops me. Zoe. His high school ex. So much for tight list. Me, the guy who lent him $2,000 when his bank card got hacked overseas. Me, the one who built their wedding website because Hannah didn't like the professional templates. And I'm not even on the list. That's when something in my head just shifted. No dramatic music, nothing cinematic. Just a clear thought, if they don't want me there, fine. I'm not waiting around until the next time they need me. I pulled up a map on my laptop. There's this off-road trail system in Colorado I'd watched videos of for years. Always told myself, someday. It's 10 hours west. I start looking at motels, campgrounds, fuel stops. I figure I can load my bike in the truck bed, hit some trails, maybe just keep driving after. I text Isla, not going. Got other plans. My phone buzzes non-stop. Isla's freaking out, asking why I wouldn't be there. Meanwhile, I post a picture on Instagram of my bike strapped to the back of my truck with the caption, "Not on the list. Make your own." I throw my tools in a box, pack my helmet, boots, gloves. For once, I don't tell anyone my plan. Saturday morning, while my parents and half the town head to a lake house I wasn't invited to, I turn the key on my old Tacoma and point it west. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm going somewhere I actually chose. The truck's already packed from the night before. Gear strapped down, gas tank full, route pulled up on my phone. I left before sunrise. The whole street's still asleep except for the diner guy downstairs hosing off the sidewalk. Driving west felt strange at first. I'm used to driving for errands, airport runs, or family stuff. This time was just me, my rules. About an hour into the trip, Isla calls. "You're seriously not coming?" she says before I even say hello. "Nope. Got other plans." "Lucas, it's your brother's engagement weekend." "He didn't invite me." She's quiet for a few seconds. "I thought that was a mistake. Everyone assumed you'd be there." "Guess not," I say. "What did your parents say?" "That it's small. Guest list was tight. Even though there's 100 people and a DJ. Isla sighs. "Wow. Okay. So where are you going?" "Colorado. Taking the bike. Hitting some trails." She laughs once like she's not sure if I'm joking. "You're actually leaving the state over this?" "Yeah. Already on the road." She doesn't argue. Just says, "Send me a picture when you get there." And Lucas. "Good for you." I hang up and keep driving. Miles roll by. Flat farmland, tiny towns with one gas station and a diner. Then long stretches of nothing but fireworks billboards and Jesus billboards. My old truck's radio crackles whenever I twist the knob, so I stick with podcasts and dusty playlists. By late afternoon, mountains rise in the distance. The Tacoma struggles on the steeper grades, engine whining, but it makes it. I pull into a little roadside motel just past the state line. Wood paneling, plastic chairs outside every door. Room smells like lemon cleaner and old carpet, but it's fine. Next morning, I drive out to the trailhead. Big dirt lot packed with trucks, trailers, and bikes in every color. While I'm unloading mine, a guy with a buzz cut and a knee brace comes over. "Need a hand?" he asks. "Sure," I say. Name's Miles. Ex-Marine. Been riding since he was a kid. Messed up his knee last year but refuses to quit. He introduces me to Wyatt, a divorced dad with a beat-up pickup and 2 teenagers he sees every other weekend. And Naomi, a grad student filming some project about public lands. They check out my bike, nod like it passes inspection, then ask if I want to join their loop. We start with an easier trail. Mostly dirt, a few rocky stretches. I haven't ridden anything serious in months, so my arms are stiff at first. Then we hit a downhill. Nothing insane, but enough to make my stomach drop. I almost dump the bike once but save it. Miles gives me a thumbs up like I just won a race. We stop by a creek halfway through. Everyone pulls snacks from their backpacks. Jerky, trail mix, gas station sandwiches. No small talk about weddings or family drama. Just people trading tips about tires and chains, arguing over the best camping stoves. I check my phone out of habit. 4 missed calls from Dad, 1 from Mom, 2 texts from Hannah. "Hey, can we talk later about the design stuff? Also, hope you're okay." I ignore them. Back at the lot, Miles asks if I'm camping with them. Says they've got a spot by the river with room for another tent. "Yeah," I tell him. "Why not?" We set up camp before dark. Wyatt shows me how to brace my tent against the wind with a spare rope. Naomi sets up a tripod to film the sunset. Miles heats chili on a little stove. The conversation drifts, from bikes to work to whatever's next in life. Wyatt talks about finally learning guitar at 40. Naomi says she might move to Alaska after her project's done. Miles tells a story about sleeping through a storm in Afghanistan like it was nothing. I don't say much, just listen. And I realize it's the first night in years where nobody's asking me for a favor. When it gets cold enough to see our breath, I crawl into my sleeping bag and check my phone one last time. More missed calls. A picture from Isla, the lake house glowing with string lights, people dancing under the tent. I turned the phone off. Tomorrow, we'd ride the harder trails. Morning air cut like ice when I crawled out of the tent. Mist from the river hovered low, sun barely clearing the ridge. Miles made coffee on the stove. Wyatt stretched stiffly. Naomi filmed the pink sky. We packed quick, then drove to a tougher trail. Longer climbs, more rocks. Miles gave short instructions. Stay left on ridges, keep speed downhill, trust the tires. First big drop. My brain almost froze, but I pushed through. Tires skidded, caught, somehow I stayed upright. At the bottom, Wyatt yelled, "That's the way." I laughed, hands shaking. Halfway through the loop, we stopped at a clearing overlooking the valley. Phones came out for photos. I checked mine, bad habit, and saw 3 texts from Isla from the past hour. Things getting weird here. Hannah looks upset. Call me when you can. No details, just that. I sent back a thumbs up emoji because the group was already moving again. The next section flowed smoother. Long curves through pine, the smell of sap and dust everywhere. By the time we got back to the lot, my arms felt like rubber, but the good kind. Like I'd actually done something real. Miles clapped me on the shoulder. Not bad for a first real ride. Didn't die, I said. Always the goal, Wyatt added. We sat on tailgates, eating whatever scraps we had left. Protein bars, apples, some trail mix Naomi passed around. Nobody rushed. Then my phone buzzed again. Isla. Calling. I answered. What's happening? She didn't waste time. Hannah's been crying on and off since last night. Some fight with Daniel before the big dinner tonight. Mom's trying to keep people from noticing, but it's obvious. About what? No clue. But your dad keeps saying everything's fine while looking like he's about to blow a gasket. I could hear voices in the background. Music, doors opening and closing. Isla lowered her voice. Pretty sure Daniel's old girlfriend Zoe showed up this morning. Hannah wasn't thrilled. I closed my eyes. He invited Zoe. Looks like it. Or maybe his friends did. Either way, Hannah looked ready to throw him in the lake. Wyatt glanced over like he could hear her through the phone. I mouthed family drama. He nodded like he'd seen plenty himself. Anyway, Isla continued. Thought you should know. Everyone keeps asking where you are. Dad told some people you were sick. Mom said work trip. Daniel just says you're busy. Sounds about right, I said. Lucas, she added before hanging up. Whatever you're doing out there, keep doing it. They're running in circles without you. After she hung up, I told Miles and Wyatt the basics. Miles laughed once. Families fall apart fast when the glue walks off. Wyatt pointed at me with his sandwich. Don't go back early. They'll just dump it all on you again. I didn't plan to. That afternoon, Naomi filmed us writing for her project. Said she wanted footage of ordinary people doing ordinary things in wild places. Felt weird but kind of cool. At one point she asked why I came out here. Because I wasn't invited to a party, I said. She laughed like she thought I was joking. We camped again that night, this time near a trailhead with picnic tables. Wyatt told a story about his kids scoring the winning goal at last week's soccer game. Miles talked about sleeping in a Jeep during a sandstorm. Naomi shared plans to hike in Alaska after her thesis. When my phone finally got signal again, pictures from Isla started rolling in. First, Hannah sitting on the dock alone, red eyes, makeup smudged. Second, Daniel talking to Zoe by the fire pit, heads close like old times. Third, a blurry shot of my dad waving his arms at someone off frame. Fourth, Isla's caption, "This dinner is going to be a disaster." I showed the photos to Wyatt and Miles. Called it, Wyatt said. Bet it gets worse before it gets better, Miles added. I shut my phone off and shoved it in the glove box. Before bed, I walked a little away from camp. The stars were sharp enough to cut yourself on. Back home, they're drowned out by streetlights and noise. Out here it was just cold air, wind in the trees, and my legs aching from riding. I kept thinking about what Isla said, how they were spinning without me. Part of me felt bad for Hannah. The rest of me? Nothing. They'd chosen to leave me out. Now they were stuck dealing with it. Back at camp, Naomi was editing footage on her laptop. Miles was already knocked out in his tent. Wyatt poked at the fire like every dad does, even when there's nothing left to burn. Next ride was tomorrow, the hardest trail yet, according to Miles. I figured whatever mess was unraveling at the lake house would either sort itself out or explode completely, without me there to clean it up. Next morning, the trail Miles picked was nothing like the others. Steep switchbacks, loose rock everywhere. Drops on one side deep enough to flip your stomach. Keep your eyes on the line, not the edge, Miles said before we started. Easier said than done. First climb nearly stalled my bike, but I leaned forward like he'd showed me, kept the throttle steady, and made it. At the top, we stopped for water. Naomi set up her tripod to film the view. Valley stretched out below, river cutting the middle, clouds snagged on the peaks. That's when my phone buzzed. Isla again. I answered, still catching my breath. It's happening, she said fast. What's happening? The party's going down in flames. Voices shouted in the background. Music cut out like someone had yanked the speakers. Slow down, I said. Okay. So first, Hannah saw Daniel and Zoe talking by the bar. Nothing crazy, but people noticed. Then someone told her Zoe's staying at a cabin nearby. Apparently, Daniel knew. Hannah lost it. I could hear another voice yelling behind her. Too far to make out. She confronted him in front of everyone. Asked if he still had feelings for Zoe. He laughed. Nervous laugh, but it looked bad. She threw her drink at him. Full glass right in the face. I sat on my bike staring at the trail. Then what? Daniel cursed at her. She ran off crying. His friends tried calming him down, but Zoe kept hanging around like she couldn't read the room. Your dad started yelling at the event manager about the music cutting out. The bartender refused to serve anyone more drinks because things were getting loud. A loud crash came through the call. Something big falling. Now Daniel just punched a wall, she said. Pretty sure his hands busted. Mom's crying. Hannah's locked in a car with her sister. Dad's arguing with the venue about damages. I pictured it perfectly. Dad red-faced, Daniel swearing, Hannah in tears, Mom trying to smile like everything was fine. Where are you? Isla asked suddenly. On top of a mountain, I said. She made a noise between a laugh and a groan. Everyone keeps asking where you are. Dad told people you're driving back tonight. I'm not, I said. Good, she replied. Because Grandma Stella just told Daniel, and I quote, "This is what happens when you cut out the only responsible adult in the family." The whole place went silent. I almost laughed. She really said that? Yep. He didn't even argue. Just stood there dripping drink mix and looking stupid. Miles waved for me to keep moving. I told Isla I'd call later and hung up. The downhill section after that was brutal. Tight turns, roots everywhere, bike bouncing like it wanted to throw me. By the bottom, my arms felt like wet rope, but I stayed upright. Miles gave me a nod like I'd passed some test. Back at camp, we ate early. Naomi edited footage on her laptop, earbuds in, head bobbing to some song only she could hear. I checked my phone again before dark. Isla had sent a string of messages. Hannah left with her sister. Says, wedding's off. Dad's blaming the venue for serving too much. Daniel's friend drove him to urgent care after the punch. Hand might be broken. Grandma Stella told everyone to go home. The last one had a photo. Empty tables, lights still on. My mom hugging Hannah's sister while Dad argued with the event staff in the background. Daniel nowhere in sight. Wyatt leaned over to look. That your family? Yeah, looks like a fun crowd. Total blast, I said. He smirked. Bet they're about to call you, huh? I didn't answer because he was right. The first call came before dark. Dad's number. I let it ring. Then Mom. Then Daniel. Then Dad again. Miles tossed another branch on the fire. You going to call back? Not tonight, I said. Instead, I walked down to the river where the moon was just starting to show over the trees. Cold air coming off the water, stars everywhere. My phone buzzed in my pocket one after another until I finally shut it off completely. I slept better that night than I had in months. Next morning, before we left for the Ridge Trail, I turned my phone on long enough to see the notifications flood in. Voicemails, texts, missed calls. Dad, we needed you here. You abandoned us when things fell apart. Daniel, please call me. It's a mess. Hannah's furious. Wedding might be off. Mom, everyone's looking for you. Please don't make this worse. I turned the phone back off, zipped it into my jacket pocket, and climbed on my bike. Ready? Miles asked. Yeah, I said. Let's ride. The Ridge Trail lived up to the warning. Miles wasn't joking. Steep on both sides, barely wide enough for two bikes to pass. One mistake and you were sliding a long way down. Halfway across, we stopped at a flat section to catch our breath. Wind cut over the top, sharp and cold. From there, we could see 3 states if Miles was telling the truth. Worth it, Wyatt said, leaning on his handlebars. I pulled the little spiral notebook from my jacket pocket. Last night, sitting by the fire, I'd written out a list. Not a journal, not feelings. Just bullet points. Moving forward, this is what I need. Pay back the $2,000 by end of year. No free design work. Family discount 25%. Nothing more. 2 weeks minimum notice for events. No last-minute guilt trips. No asking me to mediate fights. If you argue, deal with it yourselves. Respect a no. First time. No bargaining. I stared at it again. Simple rules. Clear. The kind nobody could pretend they didn't understand. Writing homework. Wyatt asked. Boundaries, I said. He nodded like he'd written a few himself once. Good families push until you stop them. Back at camp, Miles heated canned soup. Wyatt showed me how to patch a tube on my bike's spare tire. Normal stuff. Then I turned my phone on. Voicemails came first. Dad, Lucas. Your brother's in rough shape. You need to call back. We can't handle this right now. Mom, sweetheart, please come home early. Everyone's upset. We need you. We need you to fix it today. She said redo the venue layout. Rebuild the Evite. Call Hannah's parents. Get everyone back on the same page. You're the only one who can turn this around. Daniel, look. I messed up, okay? Hannah won't answer me. Dad's furious. Just call me. Isla. Grandma Stella's moved into your mom and dad's house. She told your dad to shut up twice already. You'd love it. I didn't call anyone. Instead, I texted Isla, safe. Back in 2 days. Things change when I get back. She just replied about time. That afternoon, we hit one more trail. Fast downhill, all switchbacks and loose rock. By the bottom, my arms burned, but it felt good, clean, like all the noise stayed on top of the ridge. Back at camp, I opened my email. Switchback Creative, a small design studio in Colorado, had written back again. They liked my portfolio and wanted to talk Monday about a 6-month contract. I sent back, yes, let's talk, before I could overthink it. Evening came. Wyatt built a fire. Miles cooked pasta in the dented pot. Naomi uploaded her footage somewhere with spotty Wi-Fi. I wrote my list out again, this time neat enough to hand someone. Another round of messages loaded when my phone got signal. Isla, your dad tried to talk to Hannah's parents today. Disaster. They told him Daniel better fix this himself. I didn't answer it. Wyatt looked over. Still blowing up? Yeah, I said. He tossed another stick on the fire. Let it burn. They started it. Later, while the others crashed, I sat in my truck with the dome light on. Wrote a short message to the family group chat. Back Wednesday. We meet somewhere neutral. I bring a list. If it's not respected, I'm out until it is. Your move. Then I shut the phone off again. Next morning, we packed up camp. Miles headed east. Wyatt back home to his kids. Naomi to the airport. We traded numbers, but no big speeches. Just nods and handshakes. Driving back alone felt different than coming out. Quieter in my head. I stopped in a small-town diner for breakfast. Eggs and toast for $6. By evening, I was 2 states over. Checked into a cheap motel with buzzing lights and carpet older than me. I opened my laptop, filled out paperwork. Switchback Creative emailed for Monday's call. Before sleeping, I turned my phone on long enough to see one last text from Isla. Your dad says you better be ready to explain yourself Wednesday. Grandma says you better be ready to make demands. I texted back, oh, I am. I picked the Northside Deli because it had big tables, bright windows, and no way for anyone to slam doors or shout without half the place watching. Wednesday at 11 a.m. Exactly like I texted. I got there 10 minutes early. Ordered black coffee, nothing else. Sat at the corner table, where I could see the parking lot. At 10:59, Dad's truck rolled in. He marched inside first, stiff shoulders, jaw tight. Mom followed, eyes already wet. Daniel came next with his hand in a brace, looking like someone who wanted pity. They sat across from me. Finally decided to show up, Dad said before anyone touched a menu. After running off while your family fell apart. I sipped my coffee. Morning to you too. Mom leaned forward. Lucas, your brother's wedding is hanging by a thread. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof. Hannah's parents think we're lunatics. We needed you here. I set my coffee down. Needed me for what? To fix Daniel flirting with Zoe? To stop him punching walls? He stared at the window. It was my call. I told myself keeping you off would keep everything calm. It was a stupid move. So you cut me to keep things calm, I said. How'd that work out? Dad slammed his palm on the table hard enough to rattle the silverware. This isn't about who did what. This is about family showing up when it counts. And you off on some vacation while everything blew up. I leaned forward. Family showing up? You didn't even invite me to the wedding party. Remember that 100 people on the guest list? And I found out from Isla. Nobody said anything. Mom looked at her lap. Daniel stared at the window. I pulled a folded sheet of paper from my jacket and laid it on the table. This is what I came to talk about. Mom waved a hand. Lucas, please, not lists right now. We need to focus on Daniel and Hannah. No, I said. We're focusing on this first. Dad leaned back, snorted like I'd told a joke. You think you get to set rules for us? After the way you abandoned everyone. I didn't raise my voice was steady. I didn't abandon anyone. I set my phone down for the first time in 10 years. And you all acted like the world ended. Daniel crossed his arms. Oh, here we go. Poor Lucas, the victim. Never mind Hannah crying all weekend, me in urgent care, Dad trying to hold the family together. I cut him off. Hold the family together? You mean yelling at bartenders while Grandma Stella told you the truth? Mom gasped like I'd cursed in church. Dad's face turned red. I pointed at the paper. $2,000 I sent you at 3 a.m. From Germany. Never paid back. Every wedding graphic Hannah wanted changed last minute. Done for free. Rides to the airport. Emergencies fixed. Holidays skipped so I could finish your stuff. And one time I don't show up, suddenly I'm the problem. Daniel muttered. You didn't have to do all that. Right. I said. I didn't. But I did. And you all got used to it. Mom reached across the table like touching my hand would erase everything. Sweetheart, let's not fight. We just need you to help plan the new engagement party so we can. I pulled my hand back. No. Read the list. Dad snatched it off the table, scanned the first lines, then tossed it back like it was trash. Pay back money. 2 weeks' notice for events. Respect a no. What is this? A contract. Exactly, I said. Because without rules, you treat me like free labor. Like a firefighter waiting for alarms. Mom's voice went sharp. How can you be so cold after everything this family's been through? I almost laughed. Cold. You threw a 100-person party and didn't invite me. then blamed me when it collapsed. And I'm the cold one. Daniel slammed his good hand on the table. Hannah wouldn't even be mad if you were there to talk to her. She listens to you. You could have fixed it. Not my job to fix your mess, I said. He leaned forward, face tight. So what? You're better than us now. Off riding bikes like some midlife crisis hero. While the rest of you what? I asked. Light everything on fire and call me when the smoke gets thick? Dad shoved his chair back loud enough to turn heads at the next table. I will not be spoken to like this by my own son. Then listen instead, I said, because here's how it goes. Follow the list, we stay in contact. Don't. I stepped back. No yelling, no drama, just distance. Mom grabbed the paper again, scanning it like maybe it bit her. You'd really cut off your family over this? I finished my coffee. Over years of being treated like a tool? Yeah. Nobody spoke for a full 10 seconds. Then Dad muttered, selfish. I stood. Call it whatever you want. My life, my rules now. As I walked out, Isla texted. Grandma says about time someone knocked them down a peg. I sent back. Meeting over. Things change now. 2 weeks after that deli meeting, I was back on the road. This time with everything I owned stuffed into the truck bed. Switchback Creative offered me the 6-month contract after one Zoom call. Pay was good, work sounded better, and most important, it was nowhere near my family's constant chaos. I moved into a small apartment in town. The landlord was a retired teacher who slid the keys across the counter and said, "Don't blast music after 10. That was it. No drama. On my first day at Switchback Creative, the creative director handed me a folder with logos, old brochures, and a list of what they needed designed. Mom called the third evening. I let it ring, then listened to the voicemail later. We hope you're settling in. Your father says hi. Daniel's hand is healing. Hannah, well, we'll see. I didn't call back right away. The family group chat stayed busy without me. Isla sent screenshots. Dad trying to convince Hannah's parents the wedding was still on. Hannah's parents saying not until Daniel proves himself. Daniel posting gym selfies with captions about bouncing back. Grandma Stella telling him online to bounce back into paying your brother. That part made me laugh. One evening, a letter showed up in my mailbox. Real envelope, actual handwriting. Grandma Stella. Lucas, your father asked me how to throw a birthday party for your mother without it being a disaster. First time in 40 years that man's asked anyone for advice. Thought you'd want to know. I pinned the letter on my fridge next to trail maps. 2 days later, Daniel called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Hey, he said, voice awkward. I sent the first half of what I owe you. Check your account. I checked. He had. Okay, I said. He cleared his throat. Also, Hannah and I are keeping it small. 30 people, no big parties. You'll get an invite if you want it. If I want it. Yeah, he said. No pressure. I know I screwed up. I didn't promise anything. Just told him I'd think about it. Back at work, things kept picking up. Word spread that I worked fast and didn't miss deadlines. A coffee company hired me to redo their branding. Then a hiking gear store wanted a new logo. Checks hit my account like clockwork. One night, Isla called just to say, Grandma Stella told Dad if Lucas shows up to the wedding, you keep your mouth shut unless spoken to. She really said that? I asked. Oh yeah, Isla said. In front of Hannah's parents. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. By month 3, the apartment walls were covered in trail photos, project sketches, and postcards from places I rode on weekends. Santa Fe, Boulder, Moab. Places I used to Google while fixing my family's problems at 2 a.m. Mom started calling once a week. Short conversations, mostly her telling me about church, the garden, or how Dad had calmed down a little. No yelling. No guilt trips. Just updates. Daniel sent the rest of the money in month 4. No speech, no strings, just a text. Paid in full. The wedding invite came a week later. Simple card. No gold edges or huge guest list. Just names, date, place. I booked a hotel room instead of staying at my parents' house. My rules, my space. Wedding day came. Small church, quiet crowd. Hannah nodded when she saw me. Daniel shook my hand before the ceremony and said, "Thanks for coming." No drama. No speeches about family sticking together no matter what. Just vows, rings, done. At the reception, Grandma Stella sat next to me and whispered, "Notice how peaceful it is when people follow rules." I smiled. A few minutes later, Mom walked over first. Hands clasped, eyes tired, but softer than I'd seen in years. "Lucas," she said, "I'm sorry for the party, for all of it. We should have listened sooner." Dad came next, looking like someone forced him, but still managing. "I was wrong about a lot. You deserved better than how we handled things." He glanced away like the words weighed more than he expected. Daniel shifted on his feet, wedding ring catching the light. "I screwed up," he said. "Not just the party, the way I leaned on you for everything. I get it now. I'm sorry, man." I nodded once. "Thanks." And no speeches. No hugging circle. Just 3 people finally saying what needed to be said before heading back to their tables. Grandma Stella smirked. Took them long enough. Back in Colorado the next week, the studio offered to extend my contract another 6 months. I said yes without hesitating. Family group chat stayed mostly quiet now. Pictures of birthdays, holidays, normal stuff. No one asking me to fix anything. Halfway through a Saturday ride with the locals, we stopped at a ridge. Wind in the pines, sunlight on the valley. I pulled out my phone, checked the map, then shut it off again.